response to a suggestion that came through from one of those events in the market towns. You know, people were saying, can you talk to us on a monthly basis about the things that are happening across the economy in terms of the opportunity for growth and development? You know, we want to know about those things. We don't want to wait for a quarterly briefing. So we're going to start that, you know, that quarterly blog, that quarterly information update through myself as the chief executive and taking those things forward. So comms is an important thing for us to get right. We're going to do some things to tackle it and make it right. Reach out to you and use it as a basis for developing those new relationships and new partnerships. Second thing is, and really important to our development, is around our planning service. We have lots of feedback around planning. We've got some really positive plans that we're going to take forward and allow us to develop that service. And I want Flo to take us through some of that thinking and how we're going to change that service for the good.
You're on mute, Flo.
Well, I had to, didn't I? It's tradition. I do apologise. So I'm Flo Churchill, and I've joined Herefordshire at the end of last November, and I'm looking after the planning services as one of the services that I look after. I'm a planner by training and planner by background, and I've got a mix of experience of working in local government and in private practice. So one of the things that I'm aiming to do is to clear the current backlog of applications that we've got, and we've got a significant backlog, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you all for being so patient as you have been with us whilst we're trying to deal with that. The solution that we've come up with is to engage a team of experienced planners just to work directly on the backlog, and when I say experienced planners, 3 of them are ex-heads of planning, and we've got some other members of this consultant team who have a wide breadth and depth of experience, and they're going to be working solely on the backlog of applications. We're going to create a single point of contact at the authority, and we're going to have one of our principal planners managing the work of the consultants. We will be taking a very keen interest on the quality of the reports that they produce, so please be assured that this isn't a shortcut. We're hoping to get our new planners started towards the beginning of next week, and I'm hoping that very shortly thereafter you'll begin to see a raft of decisions coming through. Obviously, we will engage properly in bringing these applications forward. So that's what we're planning to do in terms of clearing the backlog of planning applications. The other thing that I'm very keen on, and Paul's already touched on this, is making sure that our communication is a lot better than it is. And at the moment, we don't have regular contact with agents, with developers, with applicants. So we're looking to reinstate a regular engagement process. And I'd be very pleased to hear from any of you if you have any suggestions how you'd like us to do that and what format you'd like us to do that in. I think going forward over the next few months, planning is a world that can be quite exciting. It's changing on an almost daily basis in terms of regulation and policy and legislation. And I think there may also be the opportunity there for us to do some joint learning, some training on the new regulations, the new laws, and the new way of working in terms of planning. As a planning profession, we're all waiting quite eagerly to see what happens to the planning bill, if it transforms into a levelling up bill, what it's going to mean for planning, and we're keeping a very close eye on that. So that's where we are with what we're trying to do in terms of improving our planning service.
Okay, thank you, Flo. That's really helpful, and I think let's keep going with progress in terms of projects and programme updates. And Neil Taylor, our interim corporate director for economy and environment, is going to take us through this next stage. Over to you, Neil.
No problem. So, as everyone's probably aware, or most people are probably aware, we have a housing development moratorium in the Lug catchment at the minute due to phosphates for various reasons getting into the river. So in order to respond to that, one of the things that we've been telling you about and progressing is a series of integrated wetlands projects. and basically by developing wetlands, we can gain phosphate credits, and those phosphate credits allow us to then give planning consent to build new homes. The first integrated wetlands are due online in spring 22 and are currently going through the planning process and are looking very positive. We're going to have a developers update meeting during February. The reason is to keep developers up to date of progress on the wetlands projects, but also on how the phosphate credits will come through and how they'll be allocated to different housing developments and what the process will be for doing that. We're aware that at the moment we don't have this kind of moratorium in the wire catchment. However, we're also aware that it cannot be far away because the phosphates issue is affecting most of the county. So rather than sit and wait for someone to tell us that there's a problem, we are looking at developing similar wetland schemes for the Y catchment in case we need them, and as I say, we think we probably will. In parallel with that, obviously we're lobbying government for support and proposing potential solutions through Natural England, and also working very closely with our members of Parliament, one which we have here tonight. So the Nutrient Management Board is in overall supervision of the phosphates issue, as well as nitrates and things that affect other parts of the country. So we're working closely with them and neighbouring authorities to make sure that the solutions we're putting together are joined up. So that's the phosphate issue and what we're doing about that. Next slide, Roger. Okay. Thanks. Just wanted to update you on some of the projects that we talked about at the individual meetings and where we are. The new transport hub outside the railway station in Hereford is starting to become a real project. We have procured consultants to begin the design work. They're working with our city centre master plan team, as well as a range of stakeholders to start bringing forward potential designs for the transport hub, which is great. That's a positive move forward, and watch out for consultation on that in the coming couple of months. The Hereford city centre improvements that we talked about, where we're doing a series of cycling and walking schemes. We've already refreshed the market gazebos. We've got some new CCTV coming online. We're doing more. Oh.
Sorry, that's my fault. It'll come back on in a second.
That's all right. I'll look at my own. We're putting more CCTV in, and we're looking at moving the CCTV control room to our Maylords development, which is partly to have a better facility, and also partly because we're going to be doing something with the Shire Hall where it is now. We're expanding it hugely with the help of the Police and Crime Commissioner. We've got another 40 cameras going up over the next few months, and we're also looking at what else the CCTV control room can do. We've already worked with the City Council on some gating to help prevent unauthorised vehicular access, and as we move the CCTV and enhance the facilities, we'll be looking at remote control of all that kind of thing with the CCTV control room. St Owen's Street cycle contraflow is well underway, and we're also looking at the Cathedral and River Wye Quarter, and we've now appointed the consultants to do that design work, which is great since we last spoke to you. And then, of course, there's the Stronger Towns Fund, which is funding a whole series of projects across the county, but specifically council-led projects is refurbishing the museum and art gallery and moving the library into Maylords. Next slide. Okay, and just some of the other stuff. We're committed to building new, affordable, and environmentally sound homes, and we're working with Homes England on that, and we're bringing together a couple of small sites as the sort of first steps in there. But we also have big plans for other larger scale housing developments, such as Model Farm, which we talked about when we were at Ross, along with a lot of commercial space down there. We've adopted as a council the Herefordshire Future Home Standard, which sets out environmentally sound building principles and looks to create zero carbon homes, and we'll be looking to widen that out to the wider private sector led developments, to try and make sure that all the developments that go ahead are environmentally sound and carbon neutral. Okay, market town investment plans, which we talked to you all about when we were around. The council's got a 20.6 million capital programme allocation there, and we're looking at how we can bring key projects through on that. And we've got things like the Heineken brewery site that we're looking at in Ledbury, and of course the commercial development in Ross, where we desperately need new business space. We've got a couple of projects were successful in the community renewal funding, which was great. And then, as part of the key visitor economy, which affects all of the market towns and Hereford City itself, we've got visitor economy and PR campaigns going on to constantly promote the county to the national audience. So that's the update on all the things we talked to you about. Everything's moving on, and we're making significant progress. Back to you, Roger.
Thank you. Just a couple of updates on the COVID recovery schemes. So as we've mentioned previously, I think when we met in September, we were just launching a £6 million kind of short-term programme of what we felt were quite innovative and impactful things that could help the economy recover. Perhaps the most innovative of those was the prepaid card. Hopefully you've all heard about the prepaid card, offering £15 per household to everyone in the county, to each household in the county. We've actually issued now 56,215 cards as of the end of last week, and we know we can track where the spend has been, and that's actually been used in over 1,000 different merchants across the county. Part of the problem we now have is that people have got cards and need to get out spending them, so we're going to start some comms in the next week to encourage people to now start to use their card once they've got them. And then we've done free weekend buses, which has again been hugely successful in terms of take up. Over 62,000 trips made since September on the weekend free buses. We've been giving grants out to businesses for take up a business space or to start a business in an empty retail unit and e-bikes, and the continuation with great thanks to a number of people on the call today from the Visitor Economy group, the private led group, who've done a great job in working with some of the funding we've been able to offer to continue to market the county for the first time kind of proactively in 10 years as we've done over the last 12 months. Government did announce. Government did announce in the. If you could go on mute if you're not already on mute, please. The government did announce at the end of December that there was going to be some grants available to help those businesses impacted by Omicron, mainly hospitality and leisure, so up to £6,000 for businesses in the hospitality and leisure sector with a rateable value, and then they've allocated an additional £440,000, very welcome to the county, to support the additional restrictions grant, which is to support those businesses without a rateable value or the supply chain to hospitality and leisure businesses. We're just finalising the schemes. We got the final confirmation of the amount of money we would get on Friday. We're just looking to launch those schemes now through an application process on our website, which should be live tomorrow or Friday. So you can obviously pick up questions about that, or drop us a line if you'd like further information on those. And then I think it's me again next. So we're moving on to upcoming priorities, some of the things, the important things that's important to both the council and hopefully all of you that we ought to update you on. And the first of those, it's Councillor Chowns first. Councillor Chowns, if you wouldn't mind, please give us an update on the Citizens Climate Change Assembly.
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, everyone. Good to see everybody here. So a citizens' assembly is a kind of brings people together, not on the basis of just their interest to participate, but so that they're representative of the whole population. And these things have been used for 20 years or more to bring people together to think about shared challenges, essentially, bring new ideas, hear from voices that aren't necessarily normally heard in political and policy debates. So Herefordshire is holding its first Citizens' Assembly. It's actually starting tomorrow, is the first night. There are 48 participants who've been selected with the help of expert external organisations to be representative of the population of Herefordshire in terms of age and other types of demographics. And they will consider this key question: how should Herefordshire meet the challenges of climate change? We've had an expert advisory group with independent experts kind of advising us in terms of content and topics and speakers and so forth, and also stakeholder engagement meetings that were held towards the end of last year also came up with some great engagement and excellent suggestions. So the Assembly is going to focus on three themes: food, farming and land use, transport and buildings. And those three themes are really the core elements of Herefordshire's carbon footprint, our climate footprint. They're obviously interlinked with other issues as well, but they're the core focus for this because they're the most important elements of what we need to tackle in terms of climate change. So there's a whole series of expert speakers lined up, and then the participants, it's all being held on Zoom. They'll work in breakout rooms and then coming back together for Q&A in plenary. Now, all of the presentations and all of the Q&A in plenary will be recorded and then available online a few days later on the council website, so everybody can actually participate and see what's going on in terms of the discussions. So this is very much a process focused on deliberation, not debate, but really enabling people to get to grips with the complexities of these issues and find common ground around recommendations. So they will make recommendations. The council itself intends to use those recommendations to inform policy direction and also the spending priorities. We intend to propose to put some additional money into climate action at the budget that's going to be considered in a couple of weeks' time as well. But also, I very much hope that the recommendations from the Assembly will help to kind of inform and inspire action among, Herefordshire as a whole. This is very much a shared agenda, a shared challenge. And I think that this initiative, which brings new voices into the debate and really kind of starts from the basis of the evidence, ideas about what we can do, will hopefully help to shape future direction on this and be taken forward, not just by the council, also the Climate and Nature Partnership Board that we recently set up, but hopefully by all of you as businesses and the wider community, organisations and individuals too. There's material on our website about that. I'm very, very happy to talk to anybody who's got any questions around that too, and really look forward to seeing what the Assembly comes up with. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Jones. I think I'm next on, hopefully you can see on the screen, the Herefordshire County Business Improvement District. So hopefully anyone that's involved in visitor economy or independent retail is aware that there was a ballot at the end of, or during November, that closed at the end of November to propose the development of a county-wide business improvement district. This is excluding the city centre, which has already got a business improvement district itself, but would work very closely with the city to continue to promote tourism and build on the partnership that's worked very well over the last year but also to support the development of both tourism and retail, address some of the kind of the key challenges and issues in those sectors around skills and workforce, and encourage people to buy locally and obviously to visit the county. We were very pleased that the ballot was successful, and that in terms of votes, 83% of people voted in favour of forming this county-wide business improvement district, and 8 to 9% voted in favour based on the level of rateable value of each business. Two key determinants. The task group, the business-led task group that's led that process, is now looking to engage businesses to help form the board of the company that will deliver the business plan over the next 5 years. Joe Evans, who's the chair of the task group, has written out to every levy-paying business last week. We're hitting Friday and at the start of this week, so hopefully you've got yours if you're one of those businesses, inviting you to a meeting on the 21st of January at his Crumplebury business to talk more about what the bid will do, and really are encouraging people, please, to be interested in joining the board, so we can make sure that the Herefordshire County bid is a real success and delivers well for the county. And if you'd like any more details about that meeting, please just let me know, and I'll forward on those details to you. Neil, I think it's you next, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you very much. A couple of more exciting things to talk about, and first of all is the new master plan that we're putting together for the city of Hereford. Big transport element here, looking at redesigning the city for active travel and bus travel options, so it's much easier to get into town by bus and by sustainable measures, walking and cycling. We're looking at a 20-mile-an-hour city, so we've got even where we've got vehicles moving around, we've got that kind of shared space principle with people walking around and cycling. As part of that, we're looking at the Eastern River crossing. We're looking at where the parking should be, and doing a new study on where the strategic parking needs to be, and what that means in terms of sustainable transport. We're looking at an urban design principle to look at the whole of the city centre and how it could work better, what the opportunities are for new growth and development in the city centre. We're keen to have much more footfall in the city centre, creating much more custom for the businesses that are in the city centre. So we're looking at more people visiting, making it easier for people to come and visit, more activities and more space to have events going on, and making the city centre a much more pleasant place for everyone to be. Looking at a costed implementation plan as part of the master plan, working towards a consultation in late summer, and a good draft master plan in approximately 11 months' time. So there'll be lots of opportunities for consultation on that, and lots of elements to it. So there'll be different consultation groups going on, led by we've been very lucky to get a guy called David Abaka to lead the project. He's very enthusiastic, comes from a town design background, and we're really lucky to have him on that. So looking forward to that progressing over the next 11 months or so. Looking forward to that. And then another opportunity that's getting us excited is the government's Levelling Up Fund Round 2. White paper due to be published in early 2022, we hope, with bids being invited probably at the beginning of the new financial year. Looking at round 1, we might be able to bid for up to 90 million, as it says there, 20 million per constituency and 50 million as the lead transport authority, and we'll be working hard to get all that information together and all those business cases together, ready for submitting a really good bid on that. Big transport element. Some of it will be around levelling up our road infrastructure, the quality of our road infrastructure, to reduce journey times and help the economy move around a bit quicker. And there is likely to be a big element of looking at what road space is allocated to, and making sure that we can reduce our carbon footprint as well as reducing our journey times and getting everybody to where they need to be. So possible projects around that are the transport hub capital project delivery. So you recall we're designing it at the minute, and we want to deliver that. Lots of active travel measures across the county. We're looking at things like cycle routes between the market towns and Hereford, and also between market town to market town, not only helping with our carbon footprint and helping sustainable travel, but also creating some great routes for tourists to come and cycle between our market towns, which are all gorgeous in their own right, and creating routes that people can see them in a sustainable way. So all good stuff. As I say, we're looking forward to the bid, the invitation to bid in early April, and we'll be putting those bids in in the first couple of months of the financial year.
Thanks.
Thank you, Neil.
Yep.
Roger, should I introduce Isabel Brown here?
That'd be great. Yes, please.
Yep. Isabel's with us. Isabel's joined us recently, and she's our new delivery director for our Recover and Investment Fund. We're very lucky to have someone with Isabel's experience and track record in terms of delivering investment. And I thought it'd be timely to introduce Isabel to you this evening, and she can talk more about the work she's doing and invite you to join a conversation with her about the opportunities ahead for you and your business. So welcome, Isabel.
Thank you, Paul. Thanks for that. Good evening, everyone. I think many of you will be aware of the amount of loan funds that have been provided by central government during this pandemic. And as a number of them come to an end, the council's asked me to actually start to investigate whether we should be looking to establish a Herefordshire-wide loan fund for businesses post-COVID-19. As you can see there, we've sort of laid out some of the fund principles that had gone in front of Cabinet, and these were the key elements of what we would be looking for any fund to be developed. The fund itself, if it actually goes forward, and I will use the word if at the moment because I'll come back to that, is that we're doing some detailed analysis just now of the local economy, the strategic sectors. So far, I've probably spoken to about, I'm saying over 30, but it's probably heading towards about 40 stakeholder organisations just now. And I'm very keen to take some direct feedback from businesses themselves. I've been gathering some market intelligence in terms of what loan funds have been in existence, what they offer, when they're coming to an end, what have been the barriers for taking up those loan funds, and what is the appetite in Herefordshire for continued access to this type of financial product. I have some, a report to write, and this is like a bit of soft market testing just now. And in due course, what we would do, given the proper approvals, is to look at creating a business case, the financial models, the criteria, all the documentation as you would expect to be in place for any applications in due course. So the question is, how can you help me? I'm very happy to listen. My email address is on the slide, which I know will be circulated in due course. Please contact me, any businesses at all, with their experiences of what they've actually engaged in, any loan funds, or if there's been any barriers to you taking out loan funds from central government. I'd be really keen to listen to that so that I can build it into my report. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Isabel. Fantastic. Okay, so moving on, you remember that from our first summit that we organised both in Hereford and in the market towns, we very much talked about our big plan and what will, Herefordshire economy look like and feel like in 2050, and what's the shape of the economy that should be working towards, and that would involve potentially some new, bold and disruptive thinking. This isn't just another council strategy. It's about the council working across the sectors, as I said before, in terms of building new relationships and new partnerships so they can work together to address those challenges that we face. And that low wage economy, where wages relatively around 20% below the national average, around £480 a week against the national average of over 580. We talked before about how in the lowest productivity levels that we have in an upper tier of local authority. We know about an ageing population, we're even seeing it twice here. And that skilled workforce that we're looking for. Currently in Herefordshire, we've got 35% of people with an MVQ level 4 qualification. National average is nearer 40% and over. And we talked about, the proposed theme for the big plan in terms of what this might look and feel like. How do we address those key challenges? Yes, in terms of the skilled workforce, around that zero carbon and nature-rich green recovery, and around the force and impact of a creative and cultured economy and the success that we would make of our city centre in delivering that, around an inclusive and flexible economy, and our market towns and the wider rural economy across the hinterland. And those were the starting point for a conversation we would want to bring to the table around the new big plan. But what's the next steps? We've done that initial consultation. Yes, we've got some more to do, but we want to now move forward into the next phase and how we jointly develop that new long-term strategy. So over the next period, the next few weeks, we're going to put in a call out for people to join the big plan stakeholder group. And with that, a call for evidence to inform the development of that plan. What it is that's happening across the county, what are those big plans, big ideas and big initiatives that we can start to weave together and shape what the future of the economy across the county might look like in 2050. This is about working with all groups and developing relationships across all sectors and engaging people from across all areas, backgrounds, life stages and interests. We want to engage with people, hear those big ideas, listen to those challenges too. How do we address those challenges and work together to develop that big plan for Herefordshire going forward and the economy of the 2050 and what that might look like. So moving on to the final slide from us, we've shared with you tonight what we believe is an exciting and energetic programme of activity that's happening across the county. There's some fantastic opportunities ahead. And just to summarise, just to focus on some of those major capital projects around transport, public realm and regeneration that Neil talked about, and that city centre master plan, which will bring together the work across the Stronger Towns Fund, the business improvement project in the city centre, the work of the council, the work and the investment across the local enterprise partnership, and bringing that together with a new vision for the city. The success of Enmite, from the start that it's made this September, it's developed again in January, and the students in that first cohort are continuing to grow. Our role and our purpose is to support Enmite to be even more successful and working towards 450 students by 2050, and the impact that will have on the culture and the economy of the city and the county as a whole. Working across sector, this isn't just about the council and the public sector, it's a working across sector and promote that great tourism offer that's got fantastic reach and getting national and international recognition. And Ellie's articulated beautifully, our commitment to a zero carbon county and how we can work together to do that. The council's taking the lead role there, but its leadership role is to take other people with them and using its soft power to bring people together and create a shared vision for how we might achieve that. Isabel's articulated what's quite unique for us in the West Midlands in terms of a recovering investment fund. It's a bold and courageous and confident statement and step forward by the council. And we're clearly standing behind that and want to engage with you as to how we can use that to support it. And Florence talked about reforming and redefining those local services, particularly around planning, using planning to support and stimulate the local economy, and using that to inform the core strategy, which is going forward and we'll be consulting on over the next 12 to 18 months. And finally, and fundamentally, establishing that new joint plan for the county, that 2050 big plan for the local economy, and what Herefordshire and the county will look and feel like in 2050 going forward. So thank you for listening. I hope that's been helpful, open and transparent, and to give you a sense of what's on our minds, the work we're involved with. It's not just about the council hall, it's things that we are doing with and through people, with and through other organisations, for the benefit and the good of the developing the economy across Herefordshire. So we're going to pause now for questions, and then, I'm going to ask Councillor Chowns to formally close the session. I've asked Roger if he can kind of duly do the MC duties for this stage, and he will coordinate questions, comments, as he does very well. So thank you, Roger.
It's very kind of you, Paul. So there's obviously quite a few people online, which is absolutely brilliant to see so many people joining us this evening. So we might not be able to get through all the questions, but we'll do our best. I see Helen's had her hand up before we even invited questions, Helen, as ever. So what I'll do is I'll go through, if you would like to put your virtual hand up, I'll go through the questions, or please feel free to add them also to the chat. If we can't get through them all in the time that we've got, we will send out a note afterwards as a follow-up to those to those questions, and we will send you around the slides as well, so you've got a copy of the slides. So to kick off, Helen, would you like to go first?
Thanks, Roger. Thanks, everybody. Just really, first of all, to say thanks very much, and it's really good to hear that you've addressed straight away the planning issue that came up quite a bit. So I think that's absolutely brilliant that you're listening. Just a couple of questions. I didn't know about the. I'm involved in the tourism project, for everybody to know. Didn't know about the looking at the design of the cathedral and the River Wye Quarter area, which is great. I would say that in the short term, I'm just asking for a little bit. It'd be lovely if some money could go towards the sort of the look of it now, in terms of some Victoria Bridge and the garden area down by the thing could make so some short-term work before the designers get involved would be fantastic, please. And if anybody wants a discussion about that, I'd love to just input into there, because it's quite important. And then I'm a Leinster-based business, and my only other thought is on the levelling. Well, I've got lots of thoughts, but the Levelling Up Fund, when you talked about the Hereford projects that you're thinking, Leinster is the biggest market town, I believe, and we're really struggling because we haven't got a decent hotel. This issue keeps being battered around, getting nowhere. We'd like some investment and some consideration for Leinster, really. I was just thinking about levelling up funds and not just being in Hereford. And that was it for now. Thank you. Thanks, Helen. Neil, did you want to say anything at all about the cathedral quarter? The Leinster thing's probably more of a longer term around how we can through planning encourage a hotel provision.
Yeah, so the design consultant's been appointed on the Wye Quarter, and they're looking for ideas and people to submit requirements so that they can add that to their brief and then respond to the design. So if you drop me an email, I'll put you in touch with them, and you can have a chat. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Debbie Gittos, I think you were next, please, on the list of hands.
Roger,
Thank you, Roger.
Could I just comment on what Helen's just said there? I think two things, Helen. First of all, about the quarter. We're at very early stages, and we are going into a consultation. Nothing's been decided, but I don't think we've even talked very much with the City Council about it yet, because it is so early and it's so difficult trying to consult and trying to keep everybody happy. So I don't want anybody rushing off and say, oh yes, the county are deciding what to do with the city. It's nowhere near that. It's very, very early days. So a little bit of understanding, if we may, from everybody on that. We're throwing it out as something which is happening. We will be consulting. Someone's going to get upset in the course of it because we aren't doing enough consulting early enough. And the other thing about this hotel in Leinster, I thought that's absolutely fascinating. Of course, we couldn't do that until we get the phosphates issue solved. And that's a major issue. I was talking to the leader of Monmouthshire the other day, and he was saying that they have a hospital and a doctor's surgery, which they may not be able to build because of issues in the phosphate. So, you know, there are big issues like that where we are lobbying and doing everything we possibly can. And if everybody else can do that, do it with Bill and do it with Jesse to try to encourage them to address those sorts of issues. So, Helen, thanks. Hope you don't mind me interrupting with those comments. Yeah.
Much appreciated. Thank you, Councillor Katzitchner. Sorry, Debbie, did you want to take your turn?
Yeah, thank you very much. And my question actually is also about phosphates. Now, I understand why phosphate credits to allow building to go ahead are essential, but obviously that doesn't solve the problem. So what are we doing about it to try and reduce those levels? And then there's another question, which is about the Recovery and Investment Fund, and it's tied to job creation yet again, yet we haven't got enough people to fill the jobs that we've currently got. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Councillor Hitchener, did you want to talk a little bit about the letter you've written to government first, and I come to you, Councillor Chowns, perhaps around the phosphate?
Sorry, Debbie, what was the first question, Debbie? I'm awfully sorry. I got.
It was about what were we doing about phosphate levels to reduce them?
Okay, yes, no, you're absolutely right. The wetlands don't solve the long-term problem. They're just dealing with it. So longer term, we need to have solutions. And quite interesting, I was looking at a planning application the other day for some chicken sheds, and in the last 12 months, things have changed with that application. First of all, they've entered into a contract with a third party to ship out of the county all phosphate waste that I think it's 3 chicken sheds. They're going to be shipping it out of the catchment area. And secondly, they are putting in scrubbers to stop the ammonia. And I was kind of encouraged in a way that if all the waste goes out of the county, it starts working towards a solution. So, you know, I think the farmers are getting on side and working with us. They see a long-term issue, and we're working with them. It's slowly catch a monkey, but we are working and communicating well with the farming community to try to come up with long-term solutions. And you'll have picked up, I expect, Debbie, the group that have threatened the EA and Natural Wales with legal proceedings for not keeping the Y up to standard. And again, you know, in many ways, that's quite encouraging that we've got national interest in restoring the health of our river. And I'm sure, Ellie, you will have some comments on that.
What to add?
Thanks. I mean, just briefly, you know, Debbie, absolutely, it's a wicked problem, the problem of phosphate pollution. What we're doing with the wetlands is the kind of, you know, the sticking plaster at the end of the sewage pipe, if you like. But actually, the main source of phosphate pollution is the agricultural sector. And the solution there is for the agricultural sector, particularly the intensive agricultural sector, to take full life cycle responsibility for their waste products, essentially. Those phosphates could be useful elsewhere in the country. They're not useful in Herefordshire. That's the fundamental challenge that we have. And of course, as a council, we don't have influence over agricultural policy. So that is why we are looking to Jesse and Bill. We are looking to government to, you know, essentially provide the funding and the teeth to the regulators, the Environment Agency, Natural England, to be able to kind of move on with that, and also working with farmers and with industrial agricultural producers in the county to encourage all of us to be able to work together to collectively solve this problem.
Thanks, Councillor Chowns. Isabel, did you want to come in on the question around the loan funds? I think it was about.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Sorry, more jobs.
No, it's all right. The time you switch off all the various things, it just takes a moment or two. Yeah, I mean, you know, the loan funds will be there for priority sectors, for the strategic objectives of that the council, you know, is seeking to grow the economy. So it's a case of saying that we're open to listen. And you know, I'm going to say again, I'm happy to actually have that conversation with you and see where we can put investment that would actually, you know, build things like supply chains for all the other projects that are, you know, underway for the smarter towns, for the market towns, for the business improvement district. You know, these are the areas where we could actually focus in on. So please give me a buzz.
Thank you, Isabel. Does that answer your questions, Debbie?
That's great. Thanks, Roger, and thank you for all your input.
Minnie, would you like to go next, if that's okay? I think you're next on the list.
Sorry, you're all expecting Minnie, but it's her mum. I need to use her computer. Sorry.
Ah, sorry.
Raven Gabriel, I normally come on as. Sorry. If it's okay, I will tackle the phosphate questions directly with maybe Rachel separately, because you're all bored of me asking the same questions. But David, thank you for your letter that you sent to the river inquiry, the river quality inquiry. It was a good letter, and I'm very grateful that you did it and defended the sector and the county so strongly. So thank you for that. There is a slight problem with the planning side of things at the moment, which could be a temporary problem, but if anybody can help solve it, it might really take the pressure off the end user of your services, which is that you still can't get an officer allocated to your application until almost past the date where you would have a determination. Now, to me, that isn't quite fair on the people who might want to consult on the application, members of the public and people who are concerned. But it's also really difficult if you're an agent or an applicant to negotiate with an officer because you don't know who your officer is. And I worry about the quality of discussions that might happen when you don't know who's dealing with your application. So if there's any way within the next couple of weeks of actually allocating officers to the application that you've paid to have processed, that would be a huge hurdle overcome. I understand why there are no officers allocated, but it's not really probably coming up with the end result you might have wanted. There's quite a lot of frustration bubbling away from both community and the applicants. And just a few things to offer. Again, I'm a bit boring, but with my parish council hat on for a rural community, we very rarely hear anything about levelling up or funds or projects in the rural areas, and it's just not fair to kind of not ignore us, but we are part of the county and we generate good tourism, we generate good jobs, businesses, Tyrrell's, Kingspan, the oak frame companies, we're all rural based industries, and we don't have any kind of access to the same funds that the market towns and the city get, but also I don't hear anything coming from the decision makers about rural areas being important. But we could sweat for you. We're a good asset, and if you can help us, we will pay you back 10 times over, maybe 20 times over. I'll be extravagant and go big. But also we're linked into the visitor economy, and phosphates are, the impact of phosphates is coming from the rural area. So if there is money to be had to fix phosphates, spend it rurally. And like I say, we can fix this if people are brave and bold, and that might not be looking at how we can have more IPUs, David. It might be looking at what other farming sectors are doing and whether that's a good answer for the county. I'll echo what Debbie said about job creation. Some of these funds or the grants would be really dynamic and useful, but if you tie it to creating new jobs and not saving the jobs we already have, it causes established businesses that have kind of given their blood, sweat and tears to the county for decades. It causes us problems because we're all in panic mode about how do we save the jobs we've already made, not how do we create more jobs that might attract funding. So just be aware that the kind of grants might be better placed saving or changing jobs that already exist, because it is difficult to find people to fill new jobs, and especially when you've got a nearly 3-year moratorium where you can't actually trade. And just to ask Ellie if I can reiterate the willingness of the lobby group to consult on the future homes standards and the consultation process for that. I think it's really important. We've got some really brilliant companies who are doing great things, and they would love to feed back into standards that you're creating for the long-term process. So I think I'll leave you all there. That's fine. Thank you.
Flo, would you like to pick up the planning question, if that's okay? And then I'm sure Councillor Jones and Councillor would like to pick up the wider rural one.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate that we do take the impact of the planning backlog very seriously, and that's why we're taking the action that we're taking in terms of getting consultants on board to deal purely and simply with the applications. I'm going to be speaking to Kevin Bishop about how we go about allocating to those applications which are currently without an officer. And as a matter going forward, I'd like for us to be in the position where we don't validate an application unless we've got an officer to allocate it to. But we're not in that position yet. We will be shortly.
Okay.
And the wider rural priorities and contribution to the economy. I know Councillor Childs, this is something you talk to me about all the time, so I'm sure you'd like to go first.
Yeah, just briefly, I mean, Mary, actually, if you look at our delivery plan at the moment, we've got Hereford stuff, we've got the Market Town investment plans, and we've got a delivery plan element in there about a rural economic investment plan too. So it's absolutely on our radar, and I do bang on about it to Roger quite often. So just to kind of assure you and Helen and others that sort of equality question really about the attention and the investment opportunities and all the rest of it, spreading that around the county, not being too city centric while recognising the importance of the city, but that is absolutely at the forefront of our minds when we're thinking about these opportunities. There's lots of moving parts and things to juggle, but yes, and in terms of the tourism aspect of the economy as well, as you pointed out, that is a very diverse spread all over the county industry that we've done a lot to really support and boost investment in over the past couple of years. So fully with you on that, always looking for opportunities to push it forward.
Okay, thank you.
I'll build on that if I might, Paul. So I guess others might or might not agree with this, but there doesn't seem to have been a plan for Hereford City as such. And I think we see that as a real priority. It's the hub of the county. So getting that plan in place is really important. And then we do realise that, well, what about the market towns? Well, they've been left out for years. So let's build a plan for the market towns. So we're moving those two, and we also are aware of the urban areas and how important they are. So we do need a third plan, but we can't do everything at the same time. We are trying to prioritise everything. Interesting, Debbie talked about the lack of skilled workers and that kind of thing. I've been to places in Herefordshire where people have said, why are you building so many houses? There aren't the jobs. Well, there are the jobs. Everybody, or no, not everybody, loads of people want to come to live in Herefordshire. And so we aren't building enough houses, and that's partly largely because of the phosphate issue. So, we need housing in order to get more people with more jobs. And it's in many ways a great position to be in, that people want to come to be in our county.
And don't forget that building and designing houses is jobs. That's one of your biggest job sectors, is around the construction sector.
Yes, and as you know, Mary, when I write to the central government, say, look, what about the phosphates issue? I do push the building trade. It's so much economic activity around it, as well as the environmental stuff. So, yeah, and just not getting the attention from the central government that we really want. So that's why we're having to do what we can ourselves in the meantime.
Hopefully the river quality inquiry coming out tomorrow, David, will push people into the right kind of frame of mind to actually do things, not just talk about it. Fingers crossed.
Paul, did you?
And Mary, yes, I think for me, just briefly, we're going to put a call out for people and businesses and those big ideas, those people who want to come forward, both in the city, in the market towns and in the rural hinterland. And that's where we would, we want to have those conversations and work with people and organisations who are outside of the city, but have got fantastically successful businesses and some great ideas and how we can bring those together. So that's the next stage for us in many respects, Mary, and that's going to come. So look forward to that.
Thank you.
I think we probably need to engage separately with Jeff Jones on Ross, Jeff, to give you some understanding of what we're doing or trying to do in Ross. There is a plan from Rose Regeneration, which is due. It was due for consideration at a cabinet meeting the end of December, but we had to abandon that because of COVID. But it will be coming forward. It has already been published. If you go on the council's website, you can have a look and see what that's all about there. And if you don't have access to that, don't know where it is, give me or Paul a ring, and we will let you know the link to that plan.
Thank you, Councillor. And I think just to provide some reassurance, the council has no plans to sell any land at the moment for housing that we own in that area. I think that's one of the questions that has been raised in the chat. I don't think we've got any more hands up currently new ones, and I don't think there's any more questions other than the Ross one in the chat, and kind of conscious of people's time. So if unless anyone's got anything they would like to quickly pause, I think we move on to Councillor Chowns, if you wouldn't mind, for closing.
So I now stand between you and your tea, so I'll be really, really quick, just to say thank you all so much for coming along, for questions in the chat and live. And thank you for your work, actually, just what you do day to day, day in, day out, in actually creating jobs, generating economic value, generating quality of life, helping Herefordshire to thrive, essentially. You know, I think we've got a shared interest, all of us, whatever element of the economy we work in or element of the council we work in, we've got a shared interest in creating a county that supports quality of life, that generates good jobs, that protects the beautiful environment that we all love living in Herefordshire and more broadly. And so I think that shared concern and vision can really is really a good foundation for us working together. I hope you're finding these communications that we're trying to kickstart and generate more frequently really useful. As Paul outlined, there's a real plan for keeping in touch and working together going forward. Our doors are always open, metaphorically, even though we're not in offices, but you know, phone, email, whatever. So please do keep in touch. Let's keep the communications open. And if you've got questions, ask. If you've got agenda items or things that you want to push on, again, do get in touch. We really want to hear from you and work in partnership with you to make Herefordshire the best it can be. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I think that's it. Is it?
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Thanks you all.
Enjoy
Bye-bye.
your suppers
Thank
and
you.
your evenings.
Goodbye.
Thank you all for
Thanks,
attending.
everyone.
Been
Thank
great.
you.